How's it going, guys? My name's Josh, and in this episode we're going to be doing some concept art. I use the term concept art quite loosely because we're not going to be doing anything too fancy. We just need a couple of rough sketches so that when we go to create our sprites, we have some idea of what we're going to do. If you don't have a drawing tablet, just get out a pencil and some paper, because all we need to do is get our ideas out so that we can start to get a clearer picture of what our game's going to look like and save time later on when we go to create the content. So I'll start by opening a new document in Critter, and then I'll begin to draw the player character. You shouldn't worry too much about the quality of the drawing, and focus more on getting the ideas down. You want to try and think about what kind of shapes will be easiest to animate, especially with things like the hands and feet. The parts that are moving the most during the animation will need to be redrawn the most, so think carefully about how much detail you want to put into these areas. It's a good idea to think about this while you're doing the concept art, so that you don't put too much detail into areas that don't need it. It's always important to think about the purpose of your drawing. So if you're drawing a character, you need to think about who they are and what they do. What are their limits and capabilities? Say for example your character has the ability to grow and shrink. This means you need to draw the character in two different sizes, and animate him twice. You therefore need to think about if there are any differences between the small and the big drawing, and what those might be. And these are all things that should be done while you're doing the concept art. So for the main character, I've decided to go with a little Frenchman with a curly moustache, the beret, and the suspenders. So now what I'll do is I'll try and take the French theme and let it influence some of the other designs that I do, like the pickups or the environment. It's best to try as many ideas as you can when you're concepting, rather than sticking with the first thing that comes to your mind. That way you'll have more variety to choose from. You might end up liking some aspects of one drawing and other aspects of another. Here I was drawing an enemy that was going to be equivalent to the Goombas in Mario. I kind of knew that I wanted it to be either square or round, so I just started playing around with that idea. It didn't take me long till I had something that I was happy with, and while it may not be anything special, it'll do the job. You don't have to worry if you're not the best at drawing. 2D art is just one aspect of game design. And this tutorial series is about the process of creating your own games by yourself. The skill will come with practice. Since I was going to be recreating the main mechanics from Mario, I knew I'd need something to replace the Koopas. And it needed to be something that could walk and then condense down into itself like a turtle would into its shell, and then also be able to roll or slide along the ground. And the only thing that I could really think of was an armadillo. And despite having just said that I would stick to a French theme, I decided to go with the armadillo. The next thing on my list was to do pickups. So for the fireball throwing ability, I've just gone with a chili instead of a flower. For the coin, I've done a coin, but a euro, because that's what they use in France. Wait. Yeah. For the star power, I've gone with a croissant. And as for the mushrooms, I decided I'd go with a snail. I think it's because I like the idea of a Frenchman eating a snail and then doubling in size. I think what I'm trying to get at is that it can be a good idea to have a backstory for things, even if it's just a small thing like a coin or a snail. You need to have a reason for these symbols to represent what they do in your game.
は何かっていろいろ考えたら、もう怪しい森にあるキノコ以外世の中世界にはないと。
Okay, well, maybe you don't have to think too deeply about these things and give everything a backstory, but it can be helpful. Whatever. Now I'm just going through and getting some ideas for what the platforms might look like. I'm just going with your sort of bog standard item box and a grayed out version for when you've collected the item. A bit of brick here and some grass and dirt sort of texture for the ground platform. Then of course once we've done that, we have the background, and what you'll notice in Mario is that the background has this parallax scrolling effect, so when you move along, different parts of the background move at different rates. And so we will of course be doing this in blueprints in Unreal Engine 4, but that means what we have to think about when we're drawing the concept art is like, what are we going to have on each layer, and also we need to make sure it's tileable so that when we reach the end of it we can pop it to the end of the next and it just repeats the same texture over and over. So I've kind of tried to indicate that in here a little bit, at least with the hills. You don't really need to include that in your concept art, but you know, it's always good to think ahead, and it might remind you if you look at it when you go to create the art that you actually do need to do these on separate layers and they do need to be tileable. So, and then finally we have the end zone, and so it would normally be the flagpole with a little house at the end of it, and I've decided to stick to my French theme here and make the end house a little imitation of the Arc de Triomphe. I don't know if I'm saying that right. And we've got to have the French flag flying, of course. So hopefully, having done some concept art now, you'll have a bit of a clearer picture of what your idea is actually going to look like, and you can jump straight into the next episode, in which we'll be creating the art and animations for our main character. Anyway guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like or a comment. And if you're interested in game design, you might want to consider subscribing to my channel, because there's going to be a whole lot of great game design related content on the way for you very shortly.